Hey, we are super excited today because we want to talk about a subject that we've been thinking about a lot today. We went back and we watched some of our own videos in our 30-day program so that we could kind of go through the experience even more and enhance those ideas and that way of thinking. And while we were doing it, we thought of this amazing word that we tend to not give so much credit to. Have you ever had an experience in your life where you got something going, you were super excited about it, maybe like a project. You're like, okay, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to paint the shed or something, or your fence, and you're really excited, you got all the materials and all the things to paint it, and then you lost your momentum and it never happened. And then you look back and you're like, I have all this stuff and I still never did that one project that I was super excited about. And so we want to talk about momentum today.
Because this is a really big one, and psychologically and mentally, we make things easier if we just prime our neurons. If we prime our neurons and we get them ready for what we're doing going forward. And it just makes it easier, right? This is all about making it easier for us so that we can get to the things that we want. And what's the easiest way to get there? And if we keep bouncing around in our head from one thing to another, and our focus goes here and then it goes there, and it's just all over the place, then it just throws off our momentum, right? Imagine if you want to get from point A to B, but then you put a whole bunch of obstacles in between, right? So it's kind of a different way of thinking. And you can kind of think of like a sprinter or a jogger or a racer, somebody who runs, and they have those hurdles out in front of them. Imagine if every time they jumped over the hurdle, they had to stop first to jump the hurdle. Like, think of how hard that would be. But with the momentum, when the hurdle comes, boom, you just fly right over it. It takes one little extra bolt, right? But if you stopped first and you let things stop you and hold you back and interrupt that, then jumping that hurdle is really hard. You almost can't do it without the momentum. Like, you need the momentum. And not only that, but when a hurdle comes and you have momentum, you've anticipated that coming, then when the hurdle comes, you actually use it to jump and to actually gain speed. It actually encourages you to gain speed. So it's about making it easier in our mind.
And we can kind of look at that the same way as we look at our failures in life. Or maybe pain. Maybe when we're going through life and we see this thing coming that we're like, oh, that's going to be painful, I don't want to go through that. We can anticipate and say, I'm going to jump over that hurdle when it comes, instead of stopping right before it, letting myself get all distressed and having all that pain and all that worry and whatever in that moment. Instead, you can just skip that whole part and just jump right over the hurdle because you know it's coming. And so it's kind of like when before an experience or an event, you can say, okay, well, what kind of hurdles could come up in this experience? Maybe, okay, well, if this is going to happen, then maybe I can look at it in this way so that when it does come, I can jump over the hurdle. Instead of when it does come, I'm going to stop there right before the hurdle and feel all this pain and all these things I don't want to feel.
So now you're probably wondering, so yeah, that's the case. What do I do? Like, how do I stop myself from being derailed? So you're asking, how do you make it so that you don't get derailed and you don't have these things come up that throw you off and help make you lose momentum, right? And so here's the key. You ready? This is really good stuff. It's being able to anticipate some possibilities, right? You're not going to know all the possibilities of things that could throw you off, but it's about going through a process in your mind to consider some of the things that have thrown you off in the past and some things that might throw you off, some of those things that lose your momentum. And you'll notice that every one of them is a distraction to your focus. They're all some type of distraction to your focus of what you want to achieve and what you want to accomplish. And so keeping momentum is that you build the momentum. You realize that building momentum is a major key. Do something to build momentum. And then anticipate and consider the things that oftentimes have distracted you, thrown you off, whether it's your phone or it's someone having a need that they keep throwing at you, or there's a ton of different examples of how you could do that. How many times you picked up your phone to do one thing, but because of some alert or something else, you start going off a different path, right? So it's time to anticipate that happening and prepare yourself in your mind to take an action that will still keep your momentum going no matter what happens there.
It's kind of like if you pour water down a hill or a mountain or something like that. As the water goes down, where is it going to go? Well, it's going to follow the valley, or it's going to follow the little crevices and the way that the water is going. And so then you don't have any control over that, where the water's going. It just goes wherever the mountain shows it.
It'll just be based off of your environment, right? Your environment is going to determine where your effort, or that water, I should say, you're pouring that water out, that's your effort, and where that effort goes. But if you stop and you anticipate and you look at that landscape and you say, okay, so here's some things. The water's probably going to do this and do this, this, and then you build little diversions, right? You want to become the one that is creating the end point, creating your goals and where you want to end up, where you want your efforts to lead to. And then you create these little diversions to keep that going and have it end up where you want it.
And then you're the one who's creating the momentum of where that water's going. It's not going in a different way that isn't as fast or slows it down, or maybe the stream becomes even smaller, but that you're the one who created the momentum to be as fast as you chose it to be. And you're the one who is in control.
And here's what's actually happening neurologically. I always like to go to the science of it because it makes sense when you understand what your neurons are doing. Because when you think ahead, right, when you anticipate and you look at the landscape and you calculate the landscape and how it's going to affect, what you're ultimately doing in your brain is it's like you're sending a trickle charge down your neurons of that area of your brain, therefore priming your brain to be prepared and to know, first of all, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing that you can't overcome, that you can't do, that you can't do something to still get what you want. And
that is a big step right there, because the fear is the thing that's going to be holding you back from being able to calculate all of those ways that you can set those diversions. And so if you completely get the fear out of the way, then you're free to do what you really want, and you're not being pushed by that fear over and over again. You're the one who's actually creating the momentum.
And what typically gets in your way is that you have these fears that something's going to happen and it's going to take away from you. And you have those fears, and guess what you're priming in your mind? Have you ever heard of manifesting? We're all manifesting anyway. We're just manifesting the thing that doesn't get us what we want because we're priming that part of our brain. And then when it comes up, we amplify it because I knew that was going to happen. I knew that I was going to be distracted that way. I knew that thing was going to come in. I've always done this. I never get to my things I want, blah, 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 and see how the brain's going now. See the path it's on, right?
Because we do this over and over.
Because we've primed that area of our brain. So it's about keeping that priming in the direction we want, and that makes it flow and makes it easier to go that way. You're sending neurological currents that go down the line ahead of time, before it happens, with the intent and the goal in mind, with that end piece in mind. And that electrical current, that small electrical current you're doing right before that you do something, because you anticipate these potential things. You look at the landscape and you say, okay, so what's going to happen? Your brain sends those signals down, and that way when something comes up, you're already primed to go that direction. This is amazing, guys. This is neurologically, we can describe this with science in our neurons in our head. So if you're not taking time to visualize and to anticipate things and create and focus on what you truly want, you're leaving a lot out of your potential.
Because have you ever had one of those days where everything's just going perfect, everything's going great, you're getting all the stuff done that you wanted to do, and then all of a sudden someone throws something into your plans or something happens and you just get completely upset and it ruins that whole day? But is that how it needs to be if something comes in and kind of changes your plans a little bit? So being able to keep that momentum is being able to be flexible about whatever happens in your environment. That the environment doesn't actually control whatever you're feeling or whatever you're trying to do or gets in the way of your goals. But that really can be that hurdle that actually pushes you to go even faster if you choose it. But you have to anticipate it ahead of time so that in the moment it doesn't just totally throw you off guard and then it's all over and ruined and whatever you didn't want.
And so what we're talking about here of this anticipation, this looking at your landscape, that is creating the flexibility, right? We get in this state of mind where we have these expectations of how it's supposed to go, and we think that that's the way it should be, and that confines us to that way of thinking. And so this is creating that flexibility, neurologically flexible, right? By sending some, and you're not knowing the exact paths, right? This isn't about the exact, way. It's just getting your mind in that state where it's allowed to be flexible by sending out electrical currents that kind of prime those different areas of the brain to stay in this creative mode.
Because when it does come, when that thing happens that you didn't or think of specifically before, but you anticipated other ideas that could have been alike that, then it gives you that same pattern of thinking of, oh, I can get through this problem or this issue if it were to come up. And so then when that thing does come up, you're like, oh, I already did it before in my head. Like I thought of all these other ideas that I can make this better. And so then that idea or that way of thinking comes in the current moment, and you're able to then in that moment think of a new idea to make it so that you still get what you want.
And so if you're someone who is trying to change things in your life, or you have goals, you want to get to things that you truly believe in, and you want to, or you just want to change the life that you're living now that doesn't have the kind of joy or passion or excitement or enthusiasm or energy that you want, this is the key. This is one of the major keys. And we teach this at all different levels. We bring in all different kinds of programming and learning about your brain. And we have a program that's a one day intensive session that we do in groups, and we help people get this thing started. We get the ball rolling, right?
This is just a small piece.
This is about creating so much momentum behind you. You know, think about a ball that's rolling, or what is it?
A little snowball that you roll, and then it gets bigger and bigger.
It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and we want to get that thing as big as we can so that you have this massive thing rolling. Because what's going to stop it when it's that big, right? It can hit a tree and the thing will keep going. You know, and that's what we want. We want to help you with getting this in your mind set in such a way that you'll be able to get to those goals that you have. You'll be able to make those changes that you want in your life. If you have, you know, mental struggles or addictions that are throwing you for a whirl, and they're, you know, getting you in this place where you're confined in your way of thinking, and you just feel like you just keep falling back, and you can't seem to get out of it, this is one of those major keys. And we train at different levels, and we help you get to an individual specific way of your thinking and get into that and change it. And so we hope that you enjoyed this video and you got something from it. And if you want more, then, you know, go to our website or visit our other links that we have in this video that you can go and learn more and see what other things are available. We'd love to see you on a group session and help you get moving in the way that you want.